Daniel Harper had always been fascinated by the stars. As a young boy, he would spend hours lying on the grass outside his small home, looking up at the night sky. The stars seemed like tiny diamonds scattered across a dark velvet cloth. He would imagine traveling to faraway worlds and discovering things no human had ever seen. That dream never left him even as he grew older. By the age of 32, Daniel had become a respected scientist in his field. He worked at a space research institute, where he spent long days and nights trying to find ways to improve communication with distant spacecraft. His ideas were innovative, but Daniel was a quiet man. He preferred his work to speak for itself, rather than seeking attention. Colleagues admired him for his knowledge, though they often wondered why he avoided public events and big conferences. One sunny morning, Daniel received an unexpected invitation. The International Space Summit, a gathering of the world's best scientists and engineers, had invited him to present his research. This was a rare opportunity. But the invitation came with a surprising note. A representative from a distant alien civilization would attend the summit. Not just any visitor, but Lyra, a member of their royal family. Daniel had read about Lyra. She was known across galaxies for her intelligence and influence. Humans had only limited contact with her people, but they were aware that her presence at the summit was a sign of great importance. Daniel felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Meeting a real alien royal was more than he had ever imagined. On the day of the summit, the grand hall was filled with scientists, journalists, and government officials. The air buzzed with anticipation. Daniel adjusted his tie nervously and held his presentation notes tightly. He had practiced many times, but the thought of speaking in front of such an important audience made his heart beat faster. When it was his turn, Daniel walked onto the stage. He smiled politely at the crowd and began explaining his project. A device that could send messages across vast distances in space, faster and more accurately than anything currently available. His voice was steady and his words were clear, but Daniel could not help noticing Lyra seated in the front row. Her eyes were sharp, observing every movement he made. As he demonstrated the device, Daniel explained how it could help humans communicate with distant spacecraft and even with other civilizations. His presentation was thorough, detailed, and based on years of careful research. The audience listened with interest. But when Daniel showed the first results, Lyra leaned forward, her expression changing. She laughed. It was a soft, almost playful laugh, but it carried a sharp edge. "Is this really what humans consider advanced technology?" she said, her tone dripping with amusement. "I have seen messages travel faster than this in our systems thousands of years ago." The room went silent. Daniel felt a wave of embarrassment. He had not expected such blunt criticism, especially in front of so many people. His hands trembled slightly as he held the device. He opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. The laughter in the room was not loud, but it felt heavy, pressing down on him. For a moment, Daniel wanted to explain, to justify his work. But he knew it would sound defensive, and so he stayed silent. He smiled politely, gave a small nod, and continued his demonstration, showing the final results. The audience clapped politely, but the sting of Lyra's words remained. After the presentation, Daniel returned to his seat quietly. He avoided looking at Lyra, who was now speaking to other scientists. Her attention had shifted, but the memory of her laughter stayed with him. That night, back in his hotel room, Daniel replayed the moment over and over. He felt a mix of shame, frustration, and determination. How could he prove his worth if no one believed in him? He realized something important. Words were not enough. Arguments could be forgotten, explanations dismissed. But real results could not be ignored. Daniel made a silent promise to himself. He would continue his research. He would not argue. He would not retaliate. Instead, he would let his actions, his discoveries, and his inventions show what he was truly capable of. The days after the summit were quiet for Daniel. He returned home, to his small apartment filled with books, papers, and devices in various stages of construction. The world outside went on, full of noise and distraction. Daniel preferred the silence of his lab. There he could focus, think deeply, and create without interruption. In the following months, Daniel poured his energy into his work. He stayed up late, sometimes past midnight, testing ideas, building prototypes, and recording results. His colleagues noticed the intensity with which he worked, but few understood the motivation behind it. Daniel never spoke of Lyra or the summit. He kept the memory locked away, like a secret engine driving him forward. At times he wondered if he had been foolish to stay silent. Perhaps he should have defended his work. But then he would remind himself that the moment of humiliation had passed. It was behind him. What mattered now was the future, the discoveries yet to come. And so, he continued day after day in quiet determination. Daniel's work began to show promise. Small breakthroughs came first, new methods of sending signals, improvements in accuracy, and techniques that no one else had tried. Each success brought him a quiet satisfaction. He knew he was on the right path, and that the results of his labor would speak louder than any insult ever could. He often thought of Lyra, though not with anger. Instead, her mockery became a reminder of the world beyond his lab, of the challenges he faced and of the potential impact of his work. It was strange to think that someone from another world so powerful and influential could unknowingly inspire him to achieve more. Daniel continued to look at the stars at night. He imagined the vast distances between worlds, the countless civilizations and the possibilities that awaited. He no longer dreamed of recognition or applause. His dream had grown deeper, to contribute something meaningful, something that could connect worlds, something that would last. And so, 27 years ago, a single moment of embarrassment in a grand hall became the silent spark that would shape Daniel Harper's life, a spark that would burn quietly, steadily, and persistently, guiding him toward achievements that no one, perhaps not even Lyra, could foresee. Even in silence, Daniel's resolve resonated like a message sent across the universe, waiting for the right time to be heard. After the summit, Daniel Harper returned home quietly, carrying the memory of that moment when Lyra, the alien royal, had laughed at his work. He did not tell anyone about it. He did not complain. He simply went back to his small apartment, which looked more like a lab than a home. Papers, notes, and half-built devices were stacked neatly on every surface. The hum of his computer and the soft ticking of a wall clock were his companions. For Daniel, the world outside was loud and distracting. He preferred the calm and focus of his lab. There he could think clearly. There he could experiment, fail, try again, and grow. The humiliation from the summit became a quiet fuel for him. Instead of letting it weaken him, it strengthened his resolve. He decided that his future would be shaped by action and results, not words or appearances. The next few years were full of small victories. Daniel worked tirelessly, often late into the night. He built prototypes of new communication devices, tested signal transmissions, and explored techniques that no one had considered before. Some days were frustrating. Experiments failed and devices did not work as he hoped. But Daniel was patient. He reminded himself that every failure was a step forward. He kept detailed notes, analyzed mistakes carefully, and improved his designs. His colleagues noticed something unusual about him. While other scientists often sought recognition and awards, Daniel avoided the spotlight. He rarely attended conferences or gave interviews. When asked why, he would simply smile and say, "I prefer to focus on the work." Many admired his dedication, but few understood the deeper reason behind his silence. Daniel's reputation grew quietly. Among scientists, he became known as a man who could solve difficult problems with calm precision. Yet outside the scientific community, few people knew his name. He did not mind. Recognition was not his goal. What mattered to him was the impact of his work. He wanted his inventions to make a difference, to help others communicate across great distances and perhaps one day, even connect with other worlds. He often thought about Lyra, but not with anger. Her laughter had stung at the moment, but now it was like a distant echo. Instead of resentment, he felt a kind of gratitude. That moment had pushed him to prove himself, not to her, but to himself. He realized that true strength came from perseverance, patience, and quiet determination. Daniel's work slowly began to attract attention in specialized circles. Space agencies and research institutes reached out to him for collaboration. He shared his ideas with other scientists, carefully explaining his techniques and discoveries. Each successful test and prototype showed that his ideas were not only valid, but also groundbreaking. He did not boast, but his results spoke for themselves. He also began mentoring younger scientists, quietly guiding them in their work. Daniel found joy in helping others discover their potential. He never mentioned Lyra or the summit. Instead, he focused on nurturing talent, teaching patience, and showing that persistence was more powerful than immediate recognition. His students admired his wisdom and calm demeanor. They saw in him a model of quiet strength and dedication. Over the years, Daniel faced challenges beyond his experiments. Funding was sometimes limited, equipment failed, and deadlines loomed. But he remained steady. He learned to adapt, to find solutions even when resources were scarce. His ability to stay calm under pressure became one of his greatest strengths. People began to notice that when problems seemed impossible, Daniel's approach always found a path forward. Despite his successes, Daniel never lost sight of his original goal: to create a way for humans to communicate across the stars. He imagined a universe where messages could travel instantly between worlds, connecting civilizations and sharing knowledge. Every experiment, every small improvement brought him closer to that dream. He also kept a private journal, where he reflected on his journey. In it, he wrote about the summit, about Lyra's laughter, and about the quiet determination that had guided him since that day. Reading those words, he reminded himself that humiliation was not failure. It was a lesson, a moment that could inspire growth if one chose to learn from it. Years passed, and Daniel's work began to show remarkable results. Signals traveled faster, errors in transmission decreased, and the reliability of his devices improved dramatically. Other scientists started to recognize the value of his research. Invitations for collaboration increased, but Daniel remained selective. He wanted to work with people who shared his vision, who valued innovation and patience over fame. Daniel also began to receive subtle recognition from institutions he had never sought. His name appeared in research papers, his devices were tested in real missions, and his ideas were quietly adopted by space programs. Yet he remained humble. He never claimed glory. He knew that real achievement was measured not by applause but by the difference one could make in the world. All the while, Daniel continued to look up at the stars. He remembered that first moment lying on the grass as a boy dreaming of distant worlds. He had not forgotten the excitement, the wonder, and the curiosity that had drawn him to science. Those feelings kept him motivated, reminding him that discovery was not about recognition, but about understanding, connecting, and creating possibilities for the future. Sometimes, in quiet moments, he imagined Lyra observing human progress from her distant world. He wondered if she knew that the human she had once laughed at was quietly developing technology that could one day connect their civilizations. The thought was not about revenge or proving her wrong. It was about fulfilling a promise to himself, a promise made in silence years ago. Daniel Harper's life during these years was not marked by public fame or flashy awards. It was a life of quiet work, steady progress, and patient determination. Every small success, every incremental improvement was a building block toward a larger goal. And in that quiet dedication, he discovered a deeper satisfaction than any applause could provide. The years of silence shaped Daniel into a man of resilience, wisdom, and innovation. He learned that true strength did not lie in quick victories or public acknowledgement, but in the ability to keep moving forward, even when the world doubted you. He understood that actions, patience, and perseverance spoke louder than words ever could. And so, Daniel Harper continued his work, quietly transforming ideas into reality, preparing for the day when the results of his decades of dedication would be recognized not only by humans, but perhaps by the very civilization that had once doubted him. His silence, his patience, and his unwavering focus resonated quietly, waiting for the moment when the world, and perhaps the stars themselves, would finally hear him. Years had passed, and Daniel Harper's quiet work began to bear fruit. The countless nights spent in his small lab, tinkering with devices, analyzing data, and testing new ideas, were finally leading to something remarkable. His persistence was paying off, and the dream he had held since childhood, the dream of connecting worlds through communication, was slowly becoming reality. One morning, Daniel woke earlier than usual. He had spent the previous night working on a new device designed to send messages across extremely long distances, faster and more accurately than any human system before. As sunlight poured into his lab, illuminating the scattered papers and circuits, he carefully checked his measurements one last time. Every component was in place. Every calculation was precise. Today he thought might be the day. He activated the device. A soft hum filled the room and tiny lights blinked rhythmically on the control panel. Daniel held his breath. Then slowly the signals began to travel. Data was transmitted from one end of his testing range to the other almost instantly. He watched the screen, checking for errors. There were none. The system worked perfectly. Daniel could hardly contain his excitement. After so many years of quiet effort, his invention had finally succeeded. But he did not shout or celebrate loudly. Instead, he took a moment to sit back and reflect. The quiet of the lab, the hum of his machine, and the sunlight on his papers felt enough.
He understood that real achievement did not need applause.
It needed only recognition from oneself and the results of one's work. Word of his breakthrough began to spread quietly among the scientific community. Other researchers contacted him to learn more, to test his devices, and to discuss possible applications. Daniel shared his findings generously, offering guidance and support. Yet, true to his nature, he did not seek fame or public recognition. He was driven by curiosity, discovery, and the desire to contribute something meaningful. Daniel's work also began to catch the attention of international space agencies. They invited him to collaborate on advanced projects, testing his devices in simulations that mimicked the vast distances between planets and even other star systems. Each test confirmed the reliability and accuracy of his invention. The human race was getting closer than ever to sending messages instantly across the universe, and Daniel Harper was at the center of it all. Even as recognition came quietly, Daniel remained humble. He continued to work in his small lab, mentoring young scientists and guiding them patiently. He emphasized the importance of patience, observation, and persistence. Sometimes the world will doubt you, he told them. Sometimes people will laugh at your ideas. But if you believe in your work, if you are willing to dedicate yourself fully, the results will speak for you. Despite all the progress, Daniel never forgot the moment that had sparked his determination so many years ago. He remembered Lyra's laughter at the summit, her dismissive words, and the sting of humiliation he had felt. But instead of holding resentment, he carried that memory as motivation. It reminded him that one moment of doubt from others could never define his abilities. What mattered was what he created, not what others said. Months later, Daniel achieved another milestone. He had refined his communication device to the point where it could maintain a continuous connection over vast distances without loss of signal. This was a breakthrough that could change the future of space exploration. Spacecraft could now send real-time messages across interstellar distances, a feat once thought impossible. Daniel's innovation began to influence missions and research around the world. Scientists who had once doubted his quiet methods began to see the power of his approach. The devices he designed were implemented in new experiments, helping humans explore farther into space than ever before. Yet Daniel never sought recognition. He preferred that the results of his work spoke louder than any award or headline. At times he imagined Lyra observing from her distant world. He wondered if she would ever realize that the human she had laughed at decades ago was quietly building technology that could connect their civilizations. He did not hope for her acknowledgement. Instead, he saw it as a testament to human perseverance and ingenuity. Even if she never knew, his work mattered. Daniel also took care to remain true to his principles. He refused to rush his work or compromise on quality. Every device, every test, every improvement was done with precision and care. His reputation for reliability grew. Colleagues trusted him, students admired him, and his devices became essential tools in research and exploration. In quieter moments, Daniel would sit in his lab late at night, looking up at the stars. He remembered his childhood dreams, lying on the grass and imagining distant worlds. Now, as an adult, he realized that those dreams had guided him through years of patience and hard work. They had pushed him to focus, to persevere, and to believe in the unseen possibilities of the universe. As his work gained recognition in specialized circles, Daniel remained careful. He accepted invitations to speak at small conferences and to collaborate on projects, but he avoided the media and public attention. Fame was not his goal. He wanted impact, not applause. He wanted to create tools that could make real differences in the world, even if only a few understood their significance. During this period, Daniel also began documenting his methods and discoveries meticulously. He wrote detailed manuals, guides, and research papers, He shared his knowledge freely with other scientists, ensuring that his work could be built upon for generations. He understood that science was a collaborative effort, and that innovation was strongest when knowledge was shared. By the end of this phase of his career, Daniel Harper had transformed himself from a quiet, unnoticed scientist into a pivotal figure in human space communication. His inventions were no longer experimental, they were operational. They were making a real difference in the exploration of the universe. And through it all, he remained humble, patient, and dedicated to his work. The story of Daniel Harper in these years was not about awards or public recognition. It was about quiet determination, the power of patience, and the impact of consistent effort over time. His life became a testament to the idea that even in silence one could achieve greatness. The humiliation of the past, the laughter of an alien royal, had faded into a distant memory, but it had shaped him, guiding him toward discoveries that would resonate for years to come. Daniel's work was now on the verge of something even greater. His devices were ready to be tested beyond Earth, and his efforts would soon reach the attention of not only humans, but perhaps distant civilizations as well. The seeds of his perseverance were beginning to bear fruit in ways that even he had once only dreamed of. And through it all, Daniel Harper remained the same quiet, humble man who had once stood on a stage, mocked and embarrassed, and chosen silence over argument. That silence, 27 years in the making, had transformed into a powerful force, preparing him for a moment when the world, and the stars, would finally recognize the value of his work. Years of quiet work had brought Daniel Harper to a pivotal moment. His research and inventions had reached a level that no human had ever achieved. The communication device he had spent decades perfecting was now capable of sending instantaneous messages across interstellar distances. The device was reliable, precise, and ready for real-world testing. One morning, Daniel received an invitation that both surprised and excited him. A major interstellar conference, focused on diplomacy and technological collaboration, had requested him to present his invention. Not only would leading scientists from Earth attend, but representatives from other civilizations, including Lyra herself, would be present. For the first time in 27 years, Daniel would face the alien royal who had once laughed at his work. Daniel felt a mixture of emotions. He did not feel anger or desire for revenge. Instead, he felt a quiet determination. He had spent decades proving his ideas through work and results. Now it was time to demonstrate the power of persistence and dedication. He carefully prepared his presentation, ensuring that every test, every demonstration, and every explanation was flawless. On the day of the conference, the hall was filled with a mixture of human and alien representatives. The audience buzzed with curiosity. Daniel stepped onto the stage carrying his device with calm confidence. The memories of the past, the laughter, the humiliation surfaced for a brief moment, but he let them pass. They were no longer a burden. They were a quiet reminder of how far he had come. He began his presentation, speaking clearly and steadily. He explained the principles behind his device, the challenges he had overcome, and the potential applications for human and interstellar communication. Then he activated the device. The lights on the panel blinked, signals traveled without delay, and messages appeared instantly across the system. The audience watched in awe. This was more than a demonstration of human technology. It was proof that dedication, patience, and intelligence could overcome limitations once thought impossible. Daniel walked them through multiple tests, showing that his device could maintain stable connections across extreme distances, even simulating messages sent to far-off star systems. As Daniel spoke, he felt a presence at the front of the room. Lyra watched him, her expression unreadable at first. Slowly, the corners of her mouth lifted in a subtle smile. Her earlier mockery had vanished, replaced by something new: respect. She realized that the human she had once laughed at had transformed through years of quiet effort into a pioneer, capable of achievements far beyond her expectations. The demonstration reached its climax when Daniel used the device to connect two distant stations in real time. Scientists from other civilizations tested it and confirmed its accuracy. Messages were sent and received instantly without any error. The conference hall erupted in applause, not just for the technology, but for the incredible human effort behind it. Lyra approached the stage after the demonstration. Daniel did not move or react nervously. He had spent years learning that true confidence came from preparation, skill, and quiet perseverance. Lyra extended her hand, and for the first time she spoke directly to him. "Daniel Harper," she said, her voice calm and measured. "I underestimated you. Your work is extraordinary. I apologize for my words years ago. I see now the value of human innovation and determination." Daniel nodded politely. He accepted the acknowledgement but did not dwell on it. Instead, he focused on the bigger picture. "Thank you," he replied softly. "My goal has always been to create a way for humans to communicate across the stars. I hope this device will help not just us but any civilization seeking connection and understanding." Lyra's eyes reflected genuine interest and respect. She realized that Daniel's achievements were not about proving her wrong, but about demonstrating the power of patience, dedication, and thoughtful work. His silence over the years had not been weakness. It had been deliberate focus. The conference continued, but Daniel's presentation became the highlight. Scientists and leaders from multiple civilizations approached him to discuss applications, collaborations, and future improvements. Daniel listened carefully, shared his insights, and encouraged dialogue. He remained humble, emphasizing teamwork and shared goals over personal recognition. After the conference, Daniel returned to his lab with a quiet sense of fulfillment. He had faced the moment that once filled him with humiliation and had turned it into a triumph. Not through confrontation, but through decades of dedication. His work was recognized not only by humans, but also by representatives of distant civilizations. In the weeks that followed, Daniel's device was implemented in pilot programs for interstellar communication. Messages were sent between spacecraft, research stations, and even preliminary exchanges with alien civilizations. The success of these programs demonstrated that his decades of work were not only valid but essential for the future of exploration and cooperation beyond Earth. Daniel's life continued much as it had before, quiet, focused, and dedicated, but now there was a new energy in the air. His colleagues respected him deeply, students admired him more than ever, and leaders sought his advice. Yet he remained humble, never allowing recognition to distract him from his purpose. He occasionally reflected on the journey from that day 27 years ago when Lyra had mocked him. He understood that humiliation, if handled with patience and resilience, could become a powerful motivator. Silence, in his case, had allowed him to focus entirely on action rather than argument. His years of work had resonated far beyond the conference hall, influencing the path of human and interstellar communication. Daniel Harper realized that his story was not just about technology. It was about the value of perseverance, the importance of quiet determination, and the impact of actions over words. The laughter of an alien royal, once a source of embarrassment, had become a distant echo, replaced by the respect of peers and the knowledge that he had stayed true to his mission. In the quiet moments after the conference, Daniel looked up at the night sky, imagining the vast distances his device could now bridge. He felt a deep satisfaction, not from fame or recognition, but from knowing that he had created something meaningful, something that could connect worlds, foster understanding, and perhaps, in time, inspire others to follow their dreams with the same quiet determination. And so, the man who had been mocked decades ago had transformed that moment of doubt into a legacy of innovation and respect. His silence had resonated, shaping not just his life but the future of human exploration and the possibility of connection across the stars. Daniel Harper's journey was proof that true achievement comes not from immediate recognition, but from unwavering dedication and the courage to keep moving forward. Years had passed since Daniel Harper first demonstrated his device at the Interstellar Conference. The man who had once been mocked by Lyra, the alien royal, had now become a quiet force in human and interstellar communication. Yet Daniel's nature had not changed. He remained humble, preferring the calm of his lab to the noise of recognition and applause. His device had now been implemented in missions far beyond Earth. Space agencies used it to communicate between distant spacecraft, planetary research stations, and even preliminary exchanges with other civilizations. Messages that once took weeks to transmit now arrived instantly. Scientists and explorers relied on Daniel's work daily. His invention had become a bridge across the stars. Despite the success, Daniel did not become boastful. He continued to mentor young scientists, guiding them not just in technical skills but also in the values he had learned over decades: patience, perseverance, and quiet dedication. He encouraged them to focus on the work itself rather than recognition, teaching them that true achievement often came in silence, away from the applause of crowds. Daniel also continued his personal reflections. He kept a journal, writing not only about his research but also about the journey that had brought him here. He reflected on the day 27 years ago when Lyra had laughed at his work. He remembered the sting of humiliation, but he also recognized how that moment had shaped his life. It had pushed him to focus, to improve, and to trust in the power of action rather than words. One day, Daniel received another invitation from Lyra's civilization. This time, it was not for a demonstration or a conference, but for a collaborative project aimed at improving interstellar communication networks. Lyra herself would oversee the initiative. Daniel accepted the invitation, seeing it not as a chance for recognition, but as an opportunity to further connect civilizations and share knowledge. When he arrived, he found Lyra waiting. She greeted him with a respectful nod. "Daniel Harper," she said, her voice calm and sincere. "Your work has exceeded all expectations. I am grateful that humans have someone like you leading such advancements." Daniel smiled politely. "Thank you. My goal has always been to help connect civilizations and share knowledge. I'm glad my work can contribute to that." Together they began collaborating, sharing ideas and testing improvements to the communication networks. Daniel's quiet dedication and Lyra's resources and influence made a powerful combination. Under their guidance, the project advanced rapidly, creating systems that allowed instantaneous and secure communication across multiple star systems. During this collaboration, Daniel noticed something remarkable. He realized that his journey of perseverance, begun in silence after a moment of humiliation, had inspired others in ways he had not anticipated. Young scientists, engineers, and even representatives from other civilizations began adopting his approach. Focus on work, embrace patience, and let results speak for themselves. Daniel had created more than a device. He had created a legacy of determination. He also found a sense of personal closure. Lyra's initial mockery, which had haunted him for years, no longer held power over him. He had transformed that moment into motivation, and now he could see how far he had come. Lyra, too, acknowledged the lesson. She respected not only his invention but also the character and patience that had allowed him to achieve it. Back on Earth, Daniel continued to live a quiet life. He rarely sought the limelight. Media coverage and awards occasionally reached him, but he remained focused on his work and mentorship. The recognition that came naturally did not change his priorities. He valued progress, learning, and connection more than applause. Over time, Daniel's device became standard in interstellar communication. It was used to coordinate scientific research, humanitarian missions, and cultural exchanges between planets and civilizations. Messages that once took years now arrived instantly, allowing cooperation on a scale previously impossible. Daniel's invention had not only advanced technology but also fostered understanding and friendship across worlds. In his personal reflections, Daniel often thought of the journey from the boy lying on the grass, dreaming of distant stars, to the man standing at the forefront of interstellar communication. Every challenge, every moment of doubt, every night spent working alone had led him here. The humiliation he had experienced decades ago had become a distant memory, replaced by a sense of fulfillment and purpose. He also recognized the deeper lesson: silence, when combined with action, could be more powerful than any words spoken in anger or pride. By choosing not to respond to mockery, by dedicating himself to his work, he had created something lasting and meaningful. His life demonstrated that patience, focus, and resilience could overcome even the harshest doubts. In the final months of the project with Lyra, Daniel looked around at the teams of humans and aliens working together. He saw young scientists learning, engineers experimenting, and diplomats communicating seamlessly across systems. His device had become a bridge not only for messages but also for understanding and cooperation. One evening, as the project concluded successfully, Lyra approached him. "Daniel," she said, her voice filled with genuine respect, "your silence all those years was not weakness. It was strength. You have shown that dedication and patience can achieve what others thought impossible. I hope humans understand the value of what you have accomplished." Daniel nodded, feeling a quiet satisfaction. "Thank you, Lyra. I have always believed that action speaks louder than words. If my work can help connect civilizations and inspire others, then it has fulfilled its purpose. Returning to his home on Earth, Daniel continued to mentor, research, and innovate. He remained humble, patient, and quietly determined. He knew that his journey was more than his invention. It was a testament to human perseverance, the power of patience, and the impact of silent dedication. In the end, Daniel Harper's story became a lesson for generations. It was not just about technology or achievement. It was about resilience, focus, and the courage to continue when the world doubts you. The humiliation of one day long ago had resonated through decades, shaping a life that would influence not only humans but also distant civilizations. And so, the man who had been mocked by an alien royal 27 years ago had transformed that moment into a life of purpose, innovation, and quiet triumph. His silence had resonated ever since, proving that the greatest victories are often the ones achieved not in words, but in action, dedication, and the courage to follow one's dreams.